Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer. Welcome to Lost to the Wasteland, which is my weekly interview show where I get to interview a friend, a colleague, or honestly, some famous people sometimes and get their perspective on movies. And this time I have my friend Rod here from the Infinity Film Podcast in the Cinema Gallery on Instagram, who is here, and also the head of the Dakota Johnson fan club.
That's right. Free Dakota Johnson from Adam Webb. I'm starting that campaign.
Hashtag delete Madam Web movie.
Yes, delete Madam Web movie. Needs to happen, Shane. Starting the campaign.
This is Rod's second time on the show, so I appreciate you coming on and letting me ask you questions about movies.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I got confused. I was like, Shane, I've been on the show for like 3 weeks now. But okay, no.
So here's the thing. I have a lot of shows.
I know.
All with Wasteland in it. Branding.
Look at you.
I have a new podcast with my friend Rowan now, and it's going to be called Rowan in the Wasteland. And I'm like, got to keep it going. It's all about branding. Always be branding.
I'll keep that in mind.
Cookies are for people who brand.
Okay. Oh, boy. All right.
Yes, I just made a Boss Baby reference that is obviously a ripoff of Glengarry Glen Ross.
So we're off to a great start. Whenever the Boss Baby comes up, you know you're off to a great start, Shane.
Absolutely. Well, I kind of shamelessly plugged your content already, Rod, but did you want to add anything else?
Yes. Yeah, so you can find me on the Cinema Gallery Instagram page. That's Cinema Gallery with 3 L's because Instagram is stupid, Shane. And then you can find me also on Letterboxd at cinema_gallery. I always forget to plug my Letterboxd for some reason. And then, like you said, I do the Infinity Film Podcast, my good buddy Ben. And you can find us on our Instagram page and listen to us wherever you listen to your podcast.
Absolutely. And sometimes I'll be on there. I've been on them a few times. It's a lot of fun.
Yes, doing impressions and even changing up our episodes because we're supposed to do one episode one time and we did something completely different because Adam McKay is a god, apparently.
And now for something completely different. So my turn to start with some of the questions. Now, starting off, these two are kind of flipped questions, but what's a previously released film, Rod, that you have never seen that you're most excited to check out?
So I put down two, Shane, because I'm like, I've been trying to find Old Boy 2003 for the longest time. I have never seen it. And if you have it, I want you to FedEx it to me overnight, okay? So, but I have finally, there is a streaming service on the Roku app. I'm going to start just a free trial for because I'm never going to use it. I'm never going to use the service again just to watch Old Boy.
There you go.
So I haven't even seen the remake with Josh Brolin and Elizabeth Olsen, but I hear it's terrible. So I've been looking forward.
If Spike Lee won my tournament, I guess I would have been watching it.
Was that a Spike Lee film?
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I'm still not gonna watch it. So, and then the other one was Mulholland Drive.
That was a misfire there.
Yeah. And the other one was Mulholland Drive. I've heard great things about that movie. I haven't seen it, and I just bought the Criterion on Amazon. I'm just waiting for it to get here now.
So the first time I watched it, I'm like, what the hell is this? And then I dated someone who it was their favorite film. And I watched it again. And that's the kind of film that you really have to like let gestate and just like let sink in like any other Lynch film, I guess. Mm-hmm. Except for maybe The Elephant Man. That one's pretty straightforward.
I haven't seen all of his films. I've only seen just like maybe 3 or 4. So I am eagerly waiting for that Criterion to get here so I can sit on my shelf for about a week and then finally get around to watching it.
There you go. That's how we do. We buy new Criterions and then let them sit around until we finally get around to watch them.
That's what happened to my Uncut Gems. I mean, because I've already seen Uncut Gems, but that Criterion came out and it's been sitting on my shelf for quite a few months.
Very nice. Now let's flip that question to what's upcoming film are you most anticipating?
No, Shane, you ask really great questions. And of course, because I'm me, I have to have two. So one is a comic book film and one is not a comic book film.
Okay.
So I will say my comic book film first, and that's obviously Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness. That's my most hyped Phase 4 project, show, or a movie. I love multiverse stuff, and this film looks bonkers crazy, especially after WandaVision. I'm really excited to see what they do with Wanda, and I can't wait to
Mhm.
see what Elizabeth Olsen, kind of what she's going to do with her character in this film. I know people are concerned about the 2 hours and 6 minutes. I'm kind of like, yeah, I wish it would be longer, but it's 2 hours and 6 minutes for a reason. So let's just wait and see what happens. But
Yeah, my thing is don't get mad at a movie for how long it is until you actually watch it.
exactly. So, but I mean, the report was like it was going to be 2 hours and 28 minutes at first too. But I'm cool with 2 hours and 6 minutes. Sam Raimi movies aren't usually that long anyway. So look,
It's probably roughly the length of Oz the Great and Powerful.
yes, that's the first movie that came to mind. Oh, that's the great.
Well, that literally was his last movie.
Was it really? Oh
It's
boy,
been
that
years
was 2013, wasn't it?
since he directed a movie.
Oh
He
god.
directed some episodes of the 50 States of Fright that came out on Quibi. And you could definitely tell the episodes he directed because they felt like a Sam Raimi movie.
I
And
remember
yes,
Quibi.
I mentioned Quibi. Oh, I'm sorry. Roku original series, 50 States of Fright.
So we talked about Boss Baby and Quibi today. We're off to a great start today,
We're on a
Shane.
roll.
And then
We're
my
so
non-comic
relevant right now.
and then my non-comic book movie is David O. Russell's Canterbury Glass. It was originally like the Untitled film, but I guess they finally got around to naming it. And it's just a cast chain. You got Margot Robbie, Christian Bale, John David Washington, amongst a lot of others. So, and it's a fairly simple premise, but I love David O. Russell and just about everything he's made so far, except for probably I didn't like Joel that much, but Jennifer Lawrence in that movie was fantastic. So I know I'm going to get great performances and at least some pretty good direction from Russell. I know there's controversy surrounding him, so
I doubt George Clooney's going to be in this movie.
I think everyone's going to be in this movie. It's kind of like Oppenheimer. It's like, oh, you're not in this movie?
George Clooney, if he shows up, he's going to punch David O. Russell in the face. Because that happened on Three Kings. Yeah, David O. Russell doesn't get along with everybody. So, but now this is interesting because we already mentioned a remake, but I know a lot of people aren't fans of remakes. Most people aren't. But Rod, if you could remake one movie, what would it be?
So this one took me a while, Shane, because I'm kind of on that same boat,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't really dive into anything back from like before the 2000s. I don't want to touch on those classics like Jaws or anything like that. So, or
Yes,
even the
please
Goonies for
don't.
that matter, or Breakfast Club. So, if there was one, maybe Shane that I would touch from like maybe like 90s, 80s would be maybe Ferris Bueller. But that movie is in my top 10 films of all time, so I don't really want that touched either. But I could see that movie getting remade eventually. Um,
I
if
definitely can too.
yeah, if someone has the balls to actually direct it, but I don't think so.
Who would it be? Timothy Chalamet or Tom Holland? It has to be one
Oh
of the two of
God,
them, right?
I'm so sick of Chalamet right now. So I would like to see Tom Holland do it, but I mean, look, if you really want to do it, just get Holland and Zendaya, and take a battle on it. I mean, you can get away with it. Make it
I can
happen,
see that.
and to have John Watts direct it. But the movie I
Okay.
chose was actually a movie we talked about on one of your episodes, on one of our episodes on the podcast, and that's Girl on the Train when we did our Emily Blunt review episode. That
Yeah,
movie, Shane,
please.
had so much potential, and it turned into a really bad Hallmark slash Lifetime movie.
God, you get
Uh,
compared to a Hallmark movie, you know you're bad shape.
it's just Emily Blunt was really trying, and I don't want that movie on her because I actually thought she gave a really good performance. But I, if you get Fincher or somebody else to direct that movie, Shane, I feel like we might still be talking about the movie as one of the great kind of mystery thrillers of all time. I really
But
do.
it was supposed to be Gone Girl. Supposed to be another Gone Girl,
Well,
but
that's what the
nope.
marketing promised us. The next Gone Girl, and I was like, that's gonna
I
be
don't
like
see
Gone Girl.
Fincher anywhere here, so I don't believe you.
Exactly. I don't see Fincher. I don't see Rosamund Pike. So I don't know. I don't know.
Now, in my first round of interviews, I always ask people the earliest memories of going to the movies. But Rod, what's your fondest memory of going to the theater?
So I tried really hard to stay away from comic book films because I don't want this whole episode to be like another comic book film episode, filled episode. So I chose, excuse me, Toy Story 3 because I mean I still remember that, and being in that theater was just my mom and my sister that weekend when we saw it. And I haven't seen my mom cry in a lot of movies, but even when you have my mom crying at the end of your movie, you know you've got something special. I mean, I knew this film was something special, and
Mhm.
because Toy Story really means a lot to a lot of people, as I'm sure it does to you and myself. And that last those last 25 minutes, Shane, it's just it might be Pixar's best third act they've ever done in any movie period. It's emotionally satisfying. And like I said, seeing my mom cry and my sister cry, I'm also crying, and just hearing everybody else in the theater cry with their kids, it was a special moment. And it's one I'll never forget.
So to give some context too, so I graduated high school in 2010.
I think that's when I entered high school.
So I was graduating high school when Andy was and going off to college. I'm
Also,
just
this film
like,
means a lot to you.
I'm just
That's
like,
cool.
oh dang. This hits a little bit too hard. That's the
Yeah.
thing though. Growing up as a kid, I didn't really have like those toys that I always played with. Because
Right.
like I was one of those kids that was always reading books or playing video games or watching movies. So like the two toys that I remember was so weird. I had a giant action figure and a Kevin Nash action figure straight out of WCW. So basically, those were my only toys that I played with a lot. I did remember getting a bunch of Gumby toys one Christmas, but like toys were never like my thing. But like Toy Story was my thing, and and Lotso hugging bear, damn Nazi.
Well, so that's the great thing about these Toy Story movies is these villains aren't just mustache one, except for maybe Sid in the first movie. They're all
Well, that he's just like honestly, he's a neglected kid
he is.
whose father's an alcoholic. His mother's definitely way in over her head, and he's
Mhm.
just let to free roam. And like, hey, he gets steady employment by
I'm
Toy
just saying,
Story
of the
3.
four villains we've had, he's probably the. I mean, I want to say the weakest. I think they're all strong in their own ways, but anyway, I feel like especially with 2, 3, and 4, they all have they're all not just these mustache like ha 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 I'm gonna destroy toys, but like they all have damaging backstories. And like you see where the prospector's coming from, you see where Lotso's coming from, you see where Gabby was surprising.
Yeah, the Toy Story 4 was like a whole other like existential crises.
Right.
That trash? I'm trash?
Trash. You said that a couple times in your MLB episode. I was like, I get what he's doing. I get
Oh,
it.
there you go. Trash. It's either you either have Forky or you have that little alien from the most recent season of Rick and Morty, where he's just like, trash. I love trash. Trash. But like Stinky Pete, oh, I love Kelsey Grammer.
Yeah.
Just so great. And then Ned Beatty as a fascist in hiding, Lotso Huggenbear.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, oh, and Michael Keaton is Ken. Oh
So
my
good.
god.
There's so many great things about Toy Story 3 because like it turns into a prison break movie of
Yeah.
all things. And it's hilarious, and then it gets you crying. And then the funny thing is, like, yeah, it gets me crying, but I would love to watch it like again and again and again.
That furnace. Oh. And then it's like, you are just a big baby. Don't mess with Big Baby. Big Baby's gonna come for you.
Let me ask you this: did you actually think there was a moment in my like heart channel. I was like, oh my god, they're actually gonna do this. They're gonna kill these toys. Did you have that feeling for a little bit for a second there?
Maybe a second, but then the claw
Right.
came
Well,
in.
I asked that because the year before we had Up in 2009. So I was like, well, you know what? It's fair game. So
Gonna murder the wife within 10 minutes and break your heart. Thanks, Pixar. Uh, but so moving along to, obviously these films have high expectations for people.
right.
But what's a film that you did not have high expectations for that really exceeded your expectations?
Okay, so you didn't include that in your little post when you sent me that. So a film that I had
Or it could be specific. Well, it's what film really exceeded your expectations.
Okay, so there's a few, Shane. There's a few. There's a few coming of age films I can think of. One that I love a lot, Shane. I think is one of the more underappreciated films of 2018. I love Simon. I adore that film so much, Shane. And I had very little expectations for that film, and then I saw it, and I was like, not only did I get emotionally invested and wept in tears, but like Nick Robinson killed it in that movie. He was so good.
So did that soundtrack.
That was a great soundtrack. And what I loved about it too, Shane, is it's not. I hope what I said doesn't come off as like cruel or anything, but like it's not. The focus is it's an LGBTQ story, but it wasn't. It wasn't overbearing. It wasn't heavy handed. It was at the end of the day just a great love story, and I love that.
It was a genuine movie. Have you watched Love, Victor?
I love that series. Not as much as Love, Simon, but I think it's a worthy follow up to the movie. So
and they're like, Disney Plus, no. Hulu, yes.
Yeah,
because Disney.
And then that same year, a film that I already had high expectations for and it become my fifth favorite film of all time, A Star Is Born. Star Is Born to me, Shane, is a masterpiece in every sense of the word. From the performances to the amazing soundtrack, the film looks incredible. I mean, you're going to get a lot with Warner Brothers films, though, but the film looks beautiful. And I think Ali,
cinematographer of most Darren Aronofsky films.
I think Jackson and Ali are probably my favorite couple in any movie. Because it just felt there was like this extra level of realism and just authentic to those performances and to the relationship.
We saw it at the Oscars.
Yeah, to that point, I was going to mention like that at the Oscars when they're performing. I was like, "Are y'all two getting ready to make out on stage?" Because this is, I mean, it's great. It's a great performance, but this is, I think Cooper's wife is sitting right there,
acting all the time.
Yeah. So, but I want to say this too. Edit Tomorrow was another one.
Which one?
Edit Tomorrow, or Live There Repeat, or All You Need Is
Oh my God. That was one of those kinds of things where it's just like, oh, this just looks like some whatever Tom Cruise action movie. No, it was not.
No.
Like, horrible name that nobody knew what the hell the movie was, and that just blew everybody out of the water that saw it.
Yeah. That actually went and supported it. So I'm proud of you, Shane. Thank you for joining the club. Thank you. Round of applause.
Oh, and A Star Is Born. Sam Elliott should have won that Oscar for just a look as he's pulling it, backing out in that truck.
So we just put out our Oscar episode this past weekend for the 2018, films and everything, and that film got snubbed in a lot of categories in my mind. Like I genuinely believe it should have won Best Picture, and I believe Cooper and Gaga should have won performances because I think Gaga's an incredible actress. I don't know if she's ever going to be able to top that performance, though, Shane. I really don't. Cooper might. I don't know. I don't know if Gaga ever will. I mean, that was just stupid good, stupid crazy how great she was in that movie.
I still remember Bradley Cooper being the best friend from Alias.
I never watched Alias, so I can't comment.
He's friends with J.J. Abrams, so like that's how his career all started. And then look at him now.
I mean, it's funny how we went from that guy from The Hangover to now this. I mean, a film that
Yeah.
just came out last year, Nightmare Alley. I love that movie,
Yeah,
Shane.
like I honestly like I wouldn't have been I would have been happier if he got nominated instead of Javier Bardem.
I would have too.
But like I would have taken Leo, would have taken him, would have taken a lot of people. Just saying.
Yeah.
Um, but those are a lot of good picks. Especially like Edge of Tomorrow, I think is one of those universal ones where people are just like, what, whatever, and they're just like, what?
I want to ask you a question, actually. Did Edge of 17 surprise you at all? Because that's another film I had very little expectations
I
for.
love that movie
Yeah.
so much. Haley Steinfeld is amazing. Woody Harrelson is just perfect. I love that movie, and that was such a good year for movies.
Yeah, that was 2017. That was a good year.
Yep. I can't wait for movies to really bounce back because we got spoiled with a couple of years there, especially 2019. I felt like
Well, that's my favorite year for film.
just we got
It's
so
a.
spoiled.
I mean, I mean, box office wise, it was fantastic, and just the films nominated. I mean, the films nominated that year, Shane, for Best Picture. It's like you can make a case for any one of those films winning Best Picture. Well, maybe not Little Woman. I wasn't the biggest fan of Little Woman, but it was still. It's a good movie. I
I
wasn't the
really
biggest
loved
fan.
Little Women, but like even like there was just so many great films that year, and like something like Parasite just came in and was just like bam, Bong Joon Ho just like gonna make my Academy Awards make out, and I'm gonna go get drunk.
So if you think if we didn't get Parasite, what do you think would have won that year? Because I'm probably leading towards Once Upon a Time in Hollywood probably would have won, or 1917 probably would have won if Parasite didn't get.
1917, I
Yeah.
think would have won. Like that just Oscar all over it.
Well, I mean, we all know what should have won though. Endgame. So
My number one film for that year is Jojo Rabbit. I'm
such a great freaking
such a Taika Waititi fan.
oh,
ScarJo could have easily won 2 Oscars that night.
I don't want to go off another tangent, but that was the year of Scarlett Johansson, Shane. Honestly, Shane, I think all three of her performances that year were Oscar worthy. I think her performance in Endgame was Oscar worthy. I think Marriage Story was obviously she got nominated, so she should have won for Marriage Story, and
Yeah.
I think she should have won over Laura Dern for Best Supporting Actress for Jojo Rabbit.
Yeah.
She is just. Now I want to watch Jojo Rabbit. Okay, are we done? I want to watch Jojo Rabbit now.
We're halfway there. Whoa. Living on a prayer. Now, shifting gears a little bit into some written works. What's a written work that you would love to see turned into a film?
We're on the train.
Counts. I didn't say it has to be the first time that's getting turned into a movie.
No, we're going more in the comic book realm, Shane. I'm taking this into the comic book realm, and I think it's something Marvel is definitely heading towards the next probably 3 or 4 years. We're probably going to see it, and that's Secret Wars. Yeah. I love Secret Wars so much, Shane, and my favorite comic book of all time that was Civil War, but we've already been blessed with that, and so Secret Wars is so bonkers and so nutty because it just goes all over the place. And
is that what they adapted at the end of the 90s Spider-Man cartoon?
Sort of, yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah. Sort of. So, but seeing what Feige can do with this, if you get the right director, I mean, look, I don't know where the MCU is heading right now because they're kind of all over the place with
they're
the
just
multiverse.
Gonna get the Russo brothers back.
And that's been kind of the thing for the past couple of years, right? It's like the Russo brothers are probably going to return at some point to direct
Secret
something.
Wars.
And I hope it's Secret Wars, Shane, because they are the perfect people. I don't know if anyone else touch the Avengers other than the Russo brothers. Honestly, they know these characters so well. So Secret Wars for me.
There you go. I kind of thought it was going to be a comic book, but I do appreciate you being like, we need to do right by Girl on a Train.
I had to.
Now, getting into the things that we watch for 25 minutes before every movie, the things that you probably see the same one 50 million times depending on the movie.
It's in
But
Nicole
Rod,
Kidman's
what is your
anti-ad campaign.
favorite movie trailer?
Well, Shane, I hate to continue the comic book trend, but I have to continue the comic book trend. And it is the second trailer for Avengers Endgame. To me, that is the perfect trailer because one, it gives absolutely nothing away at all. Most of it is flashbacks through from previous movies, and the footage they do show, most of it from like the first act of the movie. There's a couple
And
shots here and there from the
extremely
third act.
altered to
Yeah,
not give away anything.
very altered. Like I love that. I mean, there's that shot of Cap tightening his shield, but it wasn't half broken, right? It was that full shot of the shield.
There's this shot of Rocket going into that little house,
Yes,
but just so happened to not have Hulk behind him.
exactly. Obviously, we don't see Fat Thor at all throughout the previews, which I think was great to not reveal that.
Which I think the one of the besides like the tightening of the shield, the one shot of them all walking, the three of them, just their feet up to Thanos. Because like
Love
that's a
that
third
shot.
act shot, but like you would never have known.
No, no, because it did such a great job marketing this movie of just not showing you anything. Like they really did not want you knowing anything about this at all.
Good.
And
I'm
they
so glad I didn't.
well, that's what that's the thing with the Russo brothers, right? They started this really since Civil War. I mean, they cut out, they edited out Spider-Man from Civil War, Infinity War. They did a great job of really not telling you what the actual film was about, other than Thanos collecting stones. And then Endgame was like, we're just going to show you a bunch of shots. We already have you sold in the movie, so we're just going to show you a bunch of shots.
Sony needs to learn a thing or two.
Next question.
Which I feel actually, you know what? If it wasn't for Alfred Molina, I don't think they would have shown anything from the No Way Home trailers.
That
They
would have
would
been a
have
tough marketing job, though.
they would have cut. I think their plan was to cut it to make it look like it was just Peter conflicting with Doctor Strange.
Right.
And honestly, they could have just done that. But Alfred Molina had to open his mouth and be like,
after seeing the movie, though, I don't know how you don't at least mention one of the villains.
They could have just left it at Doc Ock, honestly.
They probably could have. Now that might have been the original plan to maybe like reveal the the tentacles at the end. But
oh Rod, and that poorly edited international trailer where the lizard gets kicked out of nowhere and just being like, so you know what's funny? I bet my fiance Jess $1 that was going to be Doc Ock and Venom as the two other people with, and then that the other Spider-Man weren't actually in the movie.
Well, I think most people kind of figured out that Doc Ock was going to turn good at the end and help Peter out.
Yeah.
I don't think what any of us were expecting was Venom to just be a throwaway post-credit scene. Well, I mean, it's a fine post-credit scene, but I mean,
that post-credit 100% know now what Marvel was thinking about Sony's Spider-Man universe.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, we don't want your crap. You go keep it in the corner there. And we'll take one little piece of symbiote. Thank you. Goodbye.
So it's like a tiny piece that the MCU could use, or they couldn't. They don't have to.
Exactly. It just leaves it there.
Because I still don't think they 100% know what they're going to do with Spider-Man yet. I don't think they know.
I think after No Way Home, that really solidified that Tom Holland's sticking around with Marvel.
Oh, I agree with that. I just don't know what they're. I agree with you on that, Shane. I just don't know what they have, what their plans are for the character moving forward. Whether they're going to do a college trilogy.
They're in a tricky situation. Well, I guess they don't have to be, because if Sony's going to introduce their own Spider-Man, which I know, like everybody wants it to be Andrew Garfield. I feel like they could introduce their own versions of villains, because like they're gonna have to introduce their own Venom at some point.
Right.
I still want Kraven's Last Hunt.
Well, you're gonna get that eventually in a few months. In January, I think it's supposed to come out. Cravens.
I don't want Sony's version of this. I want him hunting Spider-Man.
I I think they're gonna do a college trilogy. It'll probably be with a different director because No Way Home is such a tonal shift from the other two Spider-Man movies. Like it's much more darker and much more emotional.
I hope they get somebody who has a little bit more personality as a director.
Well, I think I don't know this for a fact, Shane, but I think if Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness turns out as good as we all think it's probably gonna be, they might get Sam Raimi to come direct this new trilogy. That's just my thought, which would be awesome.
If they do, then all will be right in the world.
I mean, wouldn't that be great though?
Oh, because Doctor Strange at the end of that one trailer looks like a deadite right at Evil Dead. I'm like, oh my god, if that is Doctor Strange, I can't tell if that's supposed to be Nightmare or some kind of evil version of Strange, but I don't care.
That could
Honestly,
be Zombie Strange too. So I
don't want to know.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna find out in.
We have 1 month. I don't want to know shit. I'm already there. Thank you. Goodbye.
Well, we all know Marvel likes to release TV spots every other day, so
good thing I don't watch TV.
Oh, they pop up on YouTube, so you don't have to worry about that.
I do have ads enabled because, like, I feel like I'm a YouTuber and I'd feel like kind of an asshole if I blocked ads when I'm like, but I'd like to have ads at some point. So there you go.
Premium, Shane. That's what I do. I have that YouTube Premium. Buy Premium.
There you go.
$12 a month.
Now, time to talk about some music. So, Rod, what's your favorite use of a song in a movie?
This was another question to think about for a while, Shane, because I was like, I don't know. Why would Shane ask me this? You're asking the wrong person. You should be asking Ben this. Ben would be so much better to ask this question to.
Well, eventually I ask Ben when he comes on for his second round. Yeah, so.
He'll be much better at this question than I will. So I did go with the Tequila song and Baby Driver and how they used that in that action
go with
sequence.
Like 99% of the songs from Baby Driver.
Yeah. So I just thought the way that song played with the gunshots and everything, that was a nice little touch. Edgar Wright does such a great job with music in his movies. And Baby Driver, because that's my favorite Edgar Wright film. I thought that was just a perfect example.
Yeah, my fiance Jess, low key, one of her favorite songs in a movie is the Alabama song "Whiskey Bar" in The World's End, where they're like walking awkwardly between parts of like the womp bump 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 bump, and they're just like walking to the beat of it so perfectly. I'm like, yep, this is perfect. And it's just like, yep, things are getting creepy. Now, Rod, I don't know if you're the kind of person that does sit there and listens to scores, but if you were going to turn on any movie score, what score would it be?
Endgame.
Portals.
Sylvester got snubbed for best.
Sylvester
got snubbed.
Sylvester got snubbed for both of them.
He did
because Porch and Forge from Infinity War. Oh my God. The score when they were building Stormbreaker was amazing. And the whole dun, 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 dun. And when the Bifrost touchdown in Wakanda, I'm just like, just goosebumps everywhere.
Yep. And then for Endgame, it's like, I honestly can't think of a bad track in that entire album. And I love how the how works. I love that. I love whatever it takes. I love obviously Portals is just beautiful and magnificent.
I just got goosebumps thinking of Portals.
Yeah, the real hero is I never not get choked up, Shane. That the real hero chokes me up. It just does. It's a beautiful, beautiful little piece of music for Tony Stark's funeral. It's just because what I love about it too, they played a snippet of that in the beginning of the movie when you think Tony's about to die in space. They played it for just a quick minute. So yeah, Silvestri's a freaking genius. He's my favorite composer, and
this is why I wait. So my two biggest things against Marvel movie, like the MCU movies in general, One, they really need to invest more in composers.
I agree.
Because a lot of them, they take like easy way out a lot of the time. And Endgame and Infinity War just proves why it's important that you don't. And cinematography. Because I get what they're doing. I don't like it though. And it's why every time I watch any of the trailers for Multiverse of Madness, I'm just like, yes.
They've been getting better at that, especially with Phase 4. They've been getting a lot better at that.
I think so. Obviously Eternals has a very specific look to it because it has that Chloe Zhao look to it. I don't think I think the camera work was pretty impressive in Shang-Chi because oh my god, the action. Oh. And then I do feel like outside of the Strange fight, I feel like No Way Home still fell a little flat. And you could tell they didn't finish all the CGI in that movie.
Right.
Before they released it. But like, you know, just looking at Infinity War and Endgame, like the colors, the texture just looked different. And it looked leaps and bounds above the original Avengers movie, which legitimately does look like it could have just been a beefed up Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Well, like Infinity War, because it takes a lot in space, almost feels like James Gunn had a hand in it a little bit. I know he had some input with the Guardian scenes, but it's almost like a third Guardians movie almost.
It really, because like that movie felt like a Thanos, Guardians, and Thor movie.
And at the end of the day, kind of was, Shane.
It was. And oh, well, that was the thing because it was Thanos and Thor's mirrored journey from the start of the movie. And you know what? Thor lost.
Yeah, like,
and we all lost.
Infinity War is it's like you said, it's a Guardians. It's kind of a Tony and Peter movie also. It's really a Thor movie. But at the end of the day, it's a Thanos movie from start to finish.
Yep.
And I love that.
That was bold. That was different.
It was very bold.
Infinity War really paid off for it. And then Endgame felt like such a love letter to the original 6 Avengers. And it was so great. So great.
Well, Shane, it's a masterpiece. It's the greatest film of all time. So,
there you go.
Preaching to the choir.
Now, my last question for you, Rod, is what is one thing you wish movies would stop doing?
This was the easiest question for me, Shane. Because I see it still happen is when they show the third act of a movie in the opening scene. For starters, I love Mission Impossible 3 so much, Shane. It's my second favorite Mission Impossible movie. But to start with that scene pissed me off. Mm-hmm. It just annoys me. They did it in the first John Wick movie when you see John Wick kind of laying there. And it's like, oh, okay, great. And it's happened on a few more occasions. Those are kind of the two examples I always remember. I always remember the most. I hate when films do that, though. I don't know why it bugs me so much. It just does. And then it happens more in TV than it does in movies now. But I need to tell you something really important. What is it? I can't tell you. Not over the phone. Meet me at this location at 7:00. What? But yeah.
Just tell me now.
Thank you, Shane.
We're not phone tapped.
Thank you, Shane.
Yeah, Sunset Boulevard really started that. Like, here's the end.
Great. I'm not watching Sunset Boulevard now. I haven't seen Sunset Boulevard yet. So great. I'm not watching that movie now. Thank you, Shane.
Please do, though. It's a great movie.
I am. It's on my watch list.
It's like, yeah, that's me floating dead there in the pool. But how did I get here? It's just like, oh shit. I did love when they spoofed that in Archer, though. There's a whole season where they spoofed that. I'm just like, yes.
What season was that? I might not have seen that season yet.
It was season 7, because that's when he goes into his coma. And then
Oh,
we
he's in a
get,
coma. That's great.
seriously though, we get an 8th, 9th, and 10th season of him just daydreaming whole entire plots in other genres. And I'm like, the first one was interesting. The second one's like, come on. And there was a third one like, just get back to the regular show already.
Gotcha.
So I'm a huge Archer fan. So I have a lot of feelings. I could talk at length about my feelings about Archer and why Cyril Figgis is the worst.
Interesting.
Hate Cyril. And it only might have to do with the fact that I almost was an accountant. But we're just going to leave it there. I hate you, Cyril. And you're not real, so you're not going to respond to me. So, but anyway, so this is the part of the show where I turn the table and my guest gets to ask me a question. So, Rod, what would you like to ask the Wasteland Reviewer?
So, little context for this question. Every Sunday, we have like a family dinner, and we always have like a topic we always discuss at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout the dinner. So it might have been last week, or 2 weeks ago. I can't remember when it was. But I wanted to ask you, Shane, this because I'm curious your thoughts on this. In the next 5 to 10 years, let's just say by 2030, okay, how relevant do you think movie theaters will be? Or do you think streaming will really have a strong hold for us on the film industry as a whole? Especially after seeing Coda just winning Best Picture. I'm curious. My parent, we were literally just talking about it just like 2 weeks ago, I think.
I feel like in 8 years, movie theaters will be more of an event kind of thing.
Gotcha.
And Martin Scorsese's prophecy will come true. Like, honestly, it's just going to be the big movies in theaters. And honestly, I can see a world where companies own theaters, where it's just like, there's Disney's theater. They're playing Frozen 50 times today. And it's going to be that kind of thing. And you're going to have to go to like indie theaters to be able to see anything else, or it's all going to just be eaten up on streaming. Like Apple, Amazon, Disney on Hulu is just going to buy up all the indies and just plop them on there.
You know, I thought about this with A24 as well, Shane. I think in the next 5 years, maybe A24 is going to have their own service.
It's either that or Apple is going to like show all their movies.
Yeah.
Because they've already had a couple of strong collaborations. I think one of the first big ones was Boy State. Damn, that documentary. But like,
I think I saw that.
Oh, go back and check that one out on Apple.
Okay.
It'll give you a whole new perspective on the future of our political system.
That's what I need for a Sunday evening.
But yeah, I think that's going to be where it's at. If it's in 8 years, definitely, we're going to be much more on like a specific divide. Because like here's a case in point. So I don't think my go-to theater is doing very well right now. I went to go see Morbius today, and there was 5 other people in the theater, and it was a 300-something person theater. Like or 300, 400 capacity theater. Like you could fit so many people in it. There's 5 people. A couple came in before me to buy tickets for the 12:30 showing of The Lost City. They canceled it because up until that point, nobody had bought tickets.
Interesting.
So like, it's one of those kinds of things. And like AMC Voorhees used to be a Carmike theater. So AMC bought all the Carmikes and became AMC Classics. So they show indie films there, which is why I love going there. But they don't have reclining seats. They're like normal seats. People don't go to those theaters anymore. People go to AMC Marlton or Deptford around me, where it's like an 8 or a 10. They only have 8 and 10 screens, so they don't have enough screens to show smaller films. They just have the reclining seats, though. Like, my choice to go to a 24 right now, because like my 24 Hamilton perished during the pandemic, which I legitimately got upset because I've had so many memories at that theater. Some of my most fondest memories have been at that theater. I saw Force Awakens there. I saw the Avengers there. I saw so many movies there, and it died. And now I either go to AMC Cherry Hill, which I've seen rats at, like literally, and it is so run down and gross, or I have to drive over to PA and drive like over a half an hour to go to AMC Neshaminy, which isn't the nicest theater either, but like they have it to 24. That's where I drove to see Belfast because it was the only place showing it at first. And it's the kind of thing where it's just like you're gonna have to travel farther, you're gonna have to find specialty theaters, or you're just gonna be only seeing the biggest movies that come out.
So, and to that point, just a couple of things I want to add to that is I've got two AMC's. One's like 15 minutes away with a better IMAX, and one's is my preferred theater with the recliners and the IMAX and the Dolby and everything. That's my preferred theater I always go to. Uh, they haven't, I wouldn't say struggling, Shane, but like 2019, we were just talking about 2019. 2019, every weekend, even on a weekday, packed. There's my small film, big film, everyone was going to the theater. 2020, even before the pandemic, Shane, I started seeing that decline a little bit. Now, granted, we didn't have like that big event film yet in 2020, but I remember going to see like The Invisible Man, and God, I was like, it wasn't like a empty, but there should have been more people in there because The Invisible Man is a fantastic movie. Now, Shane, fast forward to today. I mean, 2021, granted, A Quiet Place Part 2, that theater was packed, but I think people were just ready just to, we can get out. And so I think you're right. It's going to be these event films like Quiet Place Part 2, Cruella, your Spider-Man No Way Homes. I mean, I was trying to go see West Side Story finally back in December. I think it was like maybe a week or so after No Way Home was out. And both my AMCs are had at showing on a one screen. Okay. Both of them kicked it out to add another screening of Spider-Man No Way Home, which sucks for us, but it's a smart business move, Shane.
It's business.
Yeah.
I get that. I have a master's in accounting. I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. What I do, like I would go to see 5 different movies in a theater every week because I would go see anything and everything. Now I just see anything and everything on streaming and what screeners people give me. Like I went to go with my friend Kevin to go see The Automat, which is a documentary about a iconic restaurant in Philly and New York City 2 weekends ago. Like I sat in a theater and watched that because like I'll go see whatever in a theater. I just got a screener for it, but I was looking forward to going to see Fiddler's Journey to the Big Screen, a new documentary about Fiddler on the Roof being turned into a film narrated by Jeff Goldblum. And I'm like, I was excited for that. And I was like, I'm at the point now where I'm afraid that like if I don't get screeners for some of these smaller ones, I might not be able to see it until it shows
That's
up.
what was something about Drive My Car, right? Because I think they could have put a lot of back, like a good campaign for it to be in theaters and be like another Parasite. I don't know if that would have helped it win Best Picture or anything because it's still a 3-hour foreign language film.
Yeah.
But
instead
that film deserved to be in
HBO
theaters
Max
for at least a month. At least a month.
It went to HBO Max, and that's where I think most people saw it.
That's kind of well, I think we're both looking like these smaller films. They're all going to head towards streaming. I just think they are because these big event films are going to start coming out in droves again. And
yep. Well, it's beginning. Like this coming weekend, having both Sonic and Ambulance coming out, and a couple weekends from now, and these aren't even huge movies, but The Bad Guys, The Northman, and the Unbearable Weight of and a Massive Talent all coming out the same weekend. Like that's still a Lionsgate movie. That's still a Focus Features film. That's still a DreamWorks picture. Those are relatively big production companies.
Okay, yeah, but DreamWorks, Bad Guys. That's not Shrek or How to Train Your Dragon. Lionsgate. That's not Hunger Games. So
I'm interested to see how all of them do in a theater. Oh, I am so gonna be there for The Northman.
There's
The
there's
most
that post I saw
A24
today.
movie, not from A24.
There's that post I saw going around today, Shane, that there was some studio interference and that really pissed off Robert Eggers. God, it definitely lowered my excitement for it a little bit. I'm still excited because it's Robert Eggers and it's a stacked cast and it looks incredible. But knowing out there's studio interference, look, there's studio interference in probably every movie. How much is the question? So
I doubt there's any studio interference with The Witch or The Lighthouse.
I
Because
don't,
if there
with
was,
A24, I feel like it's different.
well, that's the thing. I kind of wish the Northman stayed with A24 at this point, but I don't know if they would have been able to pay for the budget.
Yeah, because A24 is like $5 and go
I
make a
was
movie.
shocked they spent 20 for The Green Knight, and I'm
20?
shocked that only cost $20 million.
I think they made that back opening weekend. Shoot.
No, it didn't.
How much did it make opening weekend?
Like 4, 5.
That's funny because my screening I went to was actually packed. It was a full house.
I remember seeing The Lighthouse on a Friday night, the first weekend it was showing at AMC Hamilton. I'm like, how many people could be going to see this? So I didn't get my tickets beforehand. Got stuck in the front row. I'm like, damn.
That's the thing with these A24 films. They don't keep them in theaters long. They don't. I think it's part of this deal.
Because why keep it in theaters long when you could just have more screens for Spider-Man and the Batman and Morbius?
I saw, so sometimes Shane, when I just have nothing to do, I have to just see how full of these theaters. And so I checked my Regal, that's like 5 minutes down from my preferred AMC. They're showing they got 12 screens total. They're showing Morbius on 6 of them. 6.
Yeah, I was surprised by the lack of smaller films coming out, like being shown in theaters this weekend, because so many screens had Morbius. And like it made $39 million, which is not a ton. So like, and I don't even know if that's going to make its budget back domestically.
I don't care. I want this only. I want this whole universe to freaking just go away. I really do.
It's going to wind up in the same place as the Universal Dark Universe. But anyway, that was a good question. It's plenty to talk about. I did a whole entire episode with the 3 of my Sif Pop pals, Heath, Rowan, and Aaron, about that on Wasteland Talk. So if anybody's interested in listening to people talk about that for 2 hours, go check it out. I was grumpy Scorsese in the conversation, basically. I'm like, oh my God, I've turned into him. But anyway, Rod, this was a lot of fun. I appreciate you coming on as always. And of course, down the road, you'll come back for a 3rd round, and that's where things get really interesting.
What's part 3 about? Can you give me a sample question?
So just to give anybody a heads up, one of the most important questions is you become a professor of a film class.
Oh, crap.
What's your curriculum? What kind of films are you going to show?
I can't wait to that episode next year.
And that becomes the crux for all other episodes you come on moving forward. Because at that point, I'm just going to start interviewing about the films.
Yeah, it's been a blast. I can't wait.
So, you know what? I did one of those so far, and it was with my friend Paige, and we double featured together because, like, she's my fiance's best friend. So, like, we actually watched the films together. We double featured Phantom of the Opera 1924-25, and then the Joel Schumacher 2004 one. And then I interviewed her about them.
I haven't seen the 1925. I've only seen the 2000. Was it 4?
Yep.
So I didn't like it, honestly.
Well, that one's not a musical. It's like a really old school like horror movie. But so stuff to look forward to. But Rod, would you like to shamelessly plug anything before we wrap up?
Yes. Where do I start? It's Cinema Gallery on Instagram. That's a Cinema Gallery, all one word, and with 3 L's in gallery. You can find me on. You can find myself and my buddy Ben on the Infinity Film Podcast. That's anywhere you can listen to Podcast, Apple, Google. I got Apple Plus on my mind. Apple, Google, and Spotify, wherever. And then you can find us on our Instagram page, or simply at the Infinity Film podcast, and then my letterbox cinema underscore gallery. And I think that's everything. Yes. Oh, and go Braves, because baseball season has started, and you betrayed me, and you chose the Phillies to win the NL East, but you forgot that we're World Series champs.
I literally live 20 minutes from Philadelphia.
It doesn't matter, Shane. You betrayed me. You had one job: choose the Atlanta Braves to win the NL East.
And I did not. Neither did my brother or my friend Dave, who both are actual Phillies fans. So that wasn't.
This is a message to them. Phillies suck. They will finish in last place in the NL East.
Come on, the Marlins are finishing in last place. Who you kidding?
I know.
Or maybe Washington. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I legitimately see it as a 3-horse race. I think it's going to be the second most interesting division in baseball. Because I think the AL East is a 4-team race, and I think that's going to be crazy. Sorry, Boston.
I have Boston winning that division this year. I really do. I think Boston has that lineup itself is crazy. Yeah, I think Yankees. I like their lineup, Shane. I don't like their pitching. I don't like their rotation all that much, except for Garrett Cole. I mean, who doesn't like Garrett Cole? So,
yeah, I see Toronto. I think every year all the ridiculously young talent that they have is going to mature, and that team's going to be scary.
Remember we seen that last year though too, and the year before that.
Hey, they got real close.
But who again are the champs? Who are the champs? Shane?
Definitely wasn't Diamondbacks. It was the Atlanta Braves.
Oh, okay. Just wanted to make sure. Gotcha.
For the record, I have Matt Olson on my fantasy team. He was my number 2 pick that auto draft for me. Freddie Freeman, F you Dodgers. On that note, so Rod, thank you as always for coming on, and thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.
Go Braves.